So I was just dying inside. Okay, something's really wrong. Our sex life is important to me. This can't go on like this.
I knew that it was my fault. I did not see hope. We weren't going to be able to put food on the table. Did you ever feel like I won out? All right, another episode. I am extremely excited, probably more excited about this episode than any other episodes. I think a lot of times people, they get to hear my story, they get to see me go do my thing, but they don't often hear the details of your side and what it was like to kind of navigate your wife in depression. So I'm Lauren.
I'm Dave.
And we are the co-creators of Strong Mom. And today we're going to navigate the waters of what happens when you wake up and the person that you married isn't the same person anymore. So I went from being a two-time Olympian when I met Dave. I was a two-time Olympian, super driven, confident, knew who I was. There were a lot of things that just seemed happy and normal and driven, dedicated, all those things.
Easy. Things were easy.
Easy. And
we also didn't have kids.
True.
Fair enough.
True. But you did marry me in that state, and fast forward through after 3 kids and a lot of life changes. And all of a sudden, I know there were many times you woke up and didn't recognize who was sleeping next to you in the bed. And we're going to unpack that today. I know I'm going to learn a lot. There have been things that people have asked you and you share little nuggets of your answers of what you were thinking. And I had no idea. So I know I'm going to learn a lot today. Dave, we've been married 17 years now. And we're just going to go back kind of to the beginning and through navigating where we are today, which is incredible. Something that I never imagined was a possibility at my lowest of lows.
I knew.
Well, and that's
we're going to get to that. That's part of the reason I think maybe we made it through.
Yep. So Dave stuck with me while I navigated 6 years of depression.
Yeah, it was a we navigating. I know you felt like it was a you, but it was a we.
Fair.
Thanks.
All right. I got my notes here.
Take it away.
All right. Let's do this. All right. So first,
paint the picture a little bit.
Well, you paint the picture. You describe when we first got married from your eyes, from your perspective.
It was a layup. That's how I pictured it.
All right.
Pictured it, right?
Tell me more.
Right. This whole episode is to hold Lauren on a pedestal. Now, we met in Chicago. This is 2005 or something for all the olds out there like me. I was working in the financial industry in Chicago, super ego-driven, exciting, financially rewarding place, loving my life. I met Lauren, and of course, as I'm an ex-athlete myself, and meeting another high-level athlete that has her shit together seemingly is exciting, right? Somebody that's been to an Olympics. This is like way back when, right? You had your own website, which I thought was kind of cool.
I had a website.
It was actually legit.
It was, and it was actually before websites.
No one had a website.
Yeah, no one had a website back then.
No, laurenbay.com. Don't look for it. It's no longer. I think we took it over, but it was a legit site. And I looked you up. You're academic All-American. Little known fact: your academic career gets slept on, and my athletic career gets slept on, because of each other. But we meet. Things are easy. We're training together. She's getting ready to go to another Olympics. Life is great, wonderful. And then things kind of, after Beijing at the 2008 Olympics, kind of started to turn. The things were amazing. I don't want to say they turned, but internally for you, I think they turned when we got into the kids space. So we left the Olympics, which we've covered before, was not the best experience for you as somebody that's looking to win. And we went right into kids, right? You put your ball glove away. You walk me through a little bit of what that was like.
Well, yeah, I think I went from, I have my eye on the prize, and a lot of people can relate to this. You have a goal, you're training for it, and then all of a sudden that goal's over. You have no, whether it's a marathon goal, whatever that is, whether it's a promotion goal, all of a sudden that was over, and it didn't end the way I wanted it to end. It didn't end the way I envisioned. So I definitely entered a little bit of, a lot of people have heard of the, post-Olympic or athlete not mental breakdown, but just a real struggle mentally.
The blues.
Yeah, it was definitely,
Definitely a diagnosed and studied thing. I'm sure with professional athletes in general, but Olympians specifically, like when you leave the stage, Olympians probably because you spend that 4-year chunk literally laser focused on one thing. And then that's a huge part of your life, right? If you looked as a percentage, it's probably 80% of every waking day for 4 years, your brain space is on one thing.
Yeah.
And then that's gone with nothing to fill it.
Yeah. But I was very excited to start a family, and I felt like that was the next chapter. No, but for real,
in case our kids listen.
You're laughing at me right now. No, but I do think I looked at the next, okay, now what's the next phase of my life? I definitely had some blues for sure, but I was excited about the next phase of life.
You were kind of an older Olympian at that point, at the time, right? You were 27, 28.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you were one of the older kids now on your team.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of the life moving on thing.
Yeah. And then we found ourselves 5 years into marriage and 3 kids, 3 and under. So we had that moment, and I'll actually never forget this. It was like, we knew we wanted kids right away, and then we got pregnant right away, and then I found myself pregnant with Jack even faster than I was expecting at 8 months old, and then the next thing you know, I remember for Christmas I handed you a box, and inside of it was a pregnancy test when I was pregnant with Will, which is our third, and Jack was only 9 months old. So fast forward 5 years into our marriage, we have 3 kids, 3 and under, and I remember this like yesterday because we knew we wanted kids right away because you were a little bit older. You're 5.5 years older than I am. And we wanted a family right away, got pregnant right away. Then the next thing you know, I found myself pregnant, surprising. I wasn't surprised, but was surprised at 8 months. Just that I got pregnant so quickly both times.
I was really killing it. You're surprised that you got pregnant.
Oh, but I know sometimes it takes a while.
Oh, isn't it interesting? Total sidebar. When you're growing up, they have you scared to death of getting pregnant, like when you're in high school and college, and then it's not always that easy.
Right. And for us, we were very, very fortunate it was. And then I remember giving you a pregnancy test for Christmas in 2011, and you opened it, and I actually had the camera ready for your reaction, and I was pregnant again with Will. So we had 3 kids.
What was my reaction?
Oh, I need to get the picture. It's going to be a better picture.
I didn't know if I cried, I laughed, like what if I saw
No,
a ghost?
your eyes went really big. You had the
oh shit
face. But that kind of started, I think, the difference in how we started as a couple and where we were headed as a couple, just with the 5 year or with the 3 kids. So just tell everybody how you were feeling, because I would love to know, actually. I was so stuck in my own struggles.
So walk through, but they'll back up for a little bit, right? You didn't just have the 3 kids, like things kind of started to derail. Like after one, right? Everyone knows that your first kid is like this. It's a huge deal, obviously, but that's what the initial shock of not having your own time anymore. All of a sudden, you're on the baby's time. Lauren and I have less time, and then it's a little bit less with 2, and then with 3, the wheels really fall off. And you're going through depression at the time, right?
Yeah.
As a guy, I think they tell you it's almost an expectation that things are going to get a little dicey, a little wonky. Your wife's going to be grumpy. She's not going to sleep. You're going to be up breastfeeding. And I think I think I did a pretty good job of sharing the load as best I could. It wasn't like we're ever a family where it was like, you do everything. I know that works for some people in the kindest way. It wasn't going to work for us. I wanted to be part of it. And so, I was tired as well. Like I still got up at 5 every day for work, but I think we went through a period of like, oh, this is just how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right. And then it kind of got a little bit darker. And then I know after the 3rd pregnancy, so the second you started to have physical issues, right?
Yeah.
Some swelling in your legs, things like that. 3rd, you were wearing compression hose. You look like a Hooters waitress with those flesh colored tights in the summer in Chicago, like at the pool.
Yeah.
It's not the best
just
look at the pool.
No, just like ass fat hanging out. Because
super pregnant, one piece with the flesh colored tights. But we were good. But I think once that our 3rd Will was born, and was not easy, had some allergies and some things like that. I could kind of tell that things were pretty bad. And maybe it affected me too. So this is about the time I chose to leave my career, to really pour gas on the fire. And so you're going through this tough time that I'm starting to kind of think is normal. And I'm probably not as aware at the time because I have my own shit going on, unhappy at work. My industry had changed. And so we decided to leave and move back to Ohio. And so in the middle of this, Lauren, I don't think you knew what was happening to you. It's one thing to say I don't feel well, but it's another thing to say I have postpartum, or whatever. What did that feel like to you at the time? Did you recognize what it was?
No, honestly, I just didn't feel like myself, but I also didn't expect to feel like myself. And I figured that's just the way it is. And it wasn't like I walked off a cliff. It was slowly. So it wasn't.
It was like boiling the frog. It was 1 degree every day.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're boiling.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell. Yeah, there was no I had some massive issues. I had some massive moments where, punching things and all that stuff, screaming.
No humans.
Yeah. Wait, no humans?
Yeah, you didn't punch any humans.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, walls, punched walls and chairs. But yeah, I think it was just so gradually that it's not like I woke up one day and was like, wow, I feel totally different than yesterday. It was just, that very, very small.
Yeah, so we're back in Ohio then and building a gym.
Whoa. So just really quickly want to note though, this is such a good reminder. I'm going through my own crap, just trying to hold it together. I have no awareness of really what's going on in your life, except for we talked, but how you saw our life, because I could only see through mine and get through the day. And so the reason why I'm saying that is because I knew you were unhappy. I didn't know to what extent, but I knew you were unhappy enough to want to move. And even though I was not mentally well, I still wanted you to be happy. And so you were done with your current career. And we picked up, because we need to be very clear, we picked up and sold our house. Our house sold in 2 days. We put it on the market, went to Florida to visit your parents with the kids. We got a call in Florida, said that the house...
I'm having a bad emotional response to this moment.
Yeah, remember? We didn't think it would sell that fast, and it was at price, offer, and in 2 days. And we were like, holy shit. Does that mean are we going?
Yeah, so we left. We were opened our first business alone without a partner. We opened a fitness facility, strength and conditioning facility that, or we had the idea, right? It was a live business. We didn't have anywhere to put it. And so we moved home without work. And so we ended up, things fell through in a couple different spots. We were very particular about what we wanted to build, which we still are with everything. And that added about 18 months of no income to our family, which was okay because of what we left in Chicago, but it definitely became stressful when there's no end in sight. So as I am experiencing the worst stress of my life personally, because I'm supposed to, I've got my role. Lauren's the mom, the kids, at that point, a little bit the business for sure, but we didn't have a business. Yeah. And so I felt like it was very much on me to provide, right? And I think that's the traditional, that makes sense. And so I was just dying inside. I was, looking back, most likely depressed. Mm-hmm. Certainly had some anxiety issues to where they affected me physically. And then you were dying on the vine, like badly. And I don't think I, again, recognized it. You hit it. Tell me about that. Like you were going, and this is where I think a lot of women, moms can relate. Like, tell me what you felt like inside and then what you felt like you were portraying outside.
Yeah, it's so hard to go back because I feel like I
blocked
it. Yeah, totally. It was, I knew you were stressed. You spent 3 months in a bathrobe, walking around the house, just like a lost dog. So I think that's the one thing about our marriage, even though I struggled so badly, I think I tried to keep it together because I knew you were really struggling. And I did the things with the kids, and we now had a yard, right? We moved from Chicago where we didn't have a yard. We had big trees. We made leaf piles. I tried to make the most of it, but it was very stressful. I couldn't see an end in sight. I couldn't see, like, we thought we were moving to Ohio to open up a business. The next thing you know, we didn't have a business. The next thing you know, now this idea, we have no location. And then days turned to weeks turned to months turned to years. And yeah, we were fortunate with, leaving Chicago due to your, like, in a financial position, but we were just like writing check after check. And so there was a point where it was like, holy we need to do something.
Yeah, but you've just totally ignored my question. Won't be the first time or the last time this happens. How did you feel inside? It's almost like you want to skip it for some reason. Tell me how you felt inside.
Yeah, I was not happy. Honestly, I was probably resentful, to be honest.
Okay.
Were
you depressed?
I was super depressed. I was scared.
Tell me the thoughts. Don't just say super depressed. Like, you've told some of it.
Yeah, when I say I feel like I blocked it out, I feel like I blocked it out.
Did you ever leave that? Did you ever yell?
Oh, I yelled a lot. I remember jumping in the car and going to sit in the Acme parking lot, and I tried to rip the steering wheel off of I don't know. I was like rage. That's actually, I kind of went through moments of rage. I'm not a big drinker, and I remember drinking every bottle of wine. I opened a bottle of champagne once because I had the constant sick feeling, the anxious feeling. I don't even, drink much now. At the time, I barely drank because it made me feel so bad. But edgy. Everything was edgy, and every little thing it was very easy to set me off. I know you know that, but this isn't about me.
I know it now. I didn't know it then. Right?
No, you didn't know it then. No,
like you would steal off and go away by yourself. And so I wouldn't see it. Right. And so it was very, very hard. And I think this is, again, where people relate. When the game is about covering up, no one understands how you feel. Right. And that's kind of the first step. And we'll get to that. But it was really the first step is understanding how you felt.
Yeah. But I think so, since this whole episode is about marriage and, sticking it through and figuring out how to come out the other side we had things very challenging. Not saying, more or less, I'm just saying of other people, but just for us personally, we had a lot of challenging moments. And we really did go through a lot of that time side by side. There wasn't a lot of integration. A lot of it was because I didn't want to share how I was feeling because I already knew things were bad. The last thing I wanted to do was add fuel to the fire. That's number one. Number two, I'm sure, and it's hard to really put myself back in that position. It was so long ago, but I'm sure there was also a sense of I didn't want to appear that things bothered me. Like I've got this, right? But when we really break it down, and we haven't really talked that much about this time in our life, to be honest. We really did a lot. Like you did a lot on your own. I did a lot on my own. And what was day-to-day life for you during the whole period? We moved to Ohio. We finally get our gym up and running, by the way, after a year and a half. And then we spent all of our waking hours in the gym, which I don't know how you felt about that. I did not like it because I miss my kid. I miss the kids.
I was just going to say, I have some great memories of it with the kids in the gym, right? I don't think it was such a blur. We literally built from scratch, physically built from scratch this facility and remodeled and gutted part of our house at the same time. I don't know if you remember that. We moved in like the same week the gym opened, and we moved into a house that didn't have hot water. And so
or floors.
It's all going on. Lauren's wilting and not telling me, and I'm probably wilting a little bit, but I don't know yet still because you're not being open about it. And that was the struggle. You put on pretty well, right? I didn't see any anger. I didn't see that stuff. Maybe some detachment. But again, like when you're in this moment, everything around you tells you, oh, it's okay. It's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to not be great.
Yeah, we just moved. We haven't made any money. We've poured everything into building the gym.
Yeah, a big chunk of the life savings into the thing. And so this went on for a couple years, probably 2 years until the true rock bottom. So let's cut to the bottom, and then let's work through the fixes and try and help anybody else going through it. So
2018. So 2018, I'd characterize that as pretty much the worst of the worst. probably had similar thoughts along the way, but I actually said them out loud. So probably the worst of the worst in that particular
So for me,
year.
that's when I started to see you go to bed at 5 o'clock. That's when the true outward expression of depression came, right? Lauren would go to, just disappear at 6 o'clock. I'm exhausted. I need to lay down. And then she wouldn't wake up. So I would have the kids and the kids at the time were, 7, 5, and 4. And so pretty damn active and up my ass. I don't know how else to put it. Anyone with kids that remembers kids at that age, like they need you a lot. They want to play with you, which is amazing. But day in, day out, it's tough. And we kind of stopped sharing that like responsibility at times. Like when I was at the gym, you would take it, but then it was just like, I felt like I was stressing at the gym, and then I would come home and then it would be like, okay, here. And then you would go to bed. And as I found out later when you left for the Olympics, the third time, it's not just the childcare, it's the cooking and the cleaning of dinner, which is a dagger. And so that started to get to me, and it definitely, that probably frustration and that lack of energy from you is really, those are like telltale depression symptoms, but that's when things started to get really bad, because I'm like, okay, something's really wrong. And I got worried, right? And so then it's not only this worry, but then when I was worried, I started to address it, because I knew finally that something was actually going on. And this wasn't normal. It's not normal for somebody to go to bed at 6 p.m., right? And so those conversations are where it got tough.
Yeah, but just out of curiosity, like I don't know how I would manage living with someone who was, detached is a good word, empty, disconnected. Like that's how I felt. I'm sure you felt that. Well, I know you did.
Yeah, for sure. It certainly hurts. Like I'm a big believer. I'm a guy, right? So like our sex life is important to me. And so it is to you, right? Huh?
Yes.
And so sex life is important to me. And at the time, like when that kind of affection and that bond is not there, like that's when I'm like, this doesn't feel good. And so I think those were the questions and conversations we started to have. It was like, this can't go on like this. And I remember we had those conversations for sure. And it took a while to get there, but I think that was like incredibly important, like really setting the scene for the turnaround, because you can't, if we don't have those hard conversations, you can't acknowledge where you're at. It's truth. Like you need to start from ground truth. And the true moment was we took a trip to San Francisco, like a couple's trip, and met a family member and did some things. We hiked, we went to Muir Woods, and we have a picture from the day at Muir Woods. We've talked about this. Like you had essentially a panic attack in like one of the most beautiful places that we've hiked, and we love hiking. And that was the moment we get back to the hotel and I was like, literally, what is going on in my life right now? Like, what is this? And I just cracked and called the therapist I remember standing in the hallway at the Fairmont in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And you were pissed.
Yep.
Because it was officially out in the open.
Yep.
Like officially you needed help. And that was the real issue. And I think this happens to so many people. And from talking with, thousands of moms, it's like, unfortunately, social media puts women and moms specifically in a position where everything has to be perceived as together. Like there's almost like, it's like a badge of honor. I can hold it together. Things look good. The Pinterest mom is a thing for a reason, right? All of the crafts and the holidays are perfect and the kids go where they need and I'm not stressing. And so I think that just created the problem in a way. And once it was broken and that was kind of shattered, then we could get to business. And for me, like, again, you can say I'm a guy, but like, I want to get to business. Like, I can't live like this. It's been 6 years.
Yeah, we had a few conversations where you were like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. I'm not living like this. But you're,
and just to be clear, that conversation is something has to change. Yep. I don't know what it is, but what is happening right now is not
an option. Wasn't an option.
Not an option. We ain't doing this anymore.
Actually, that's exactly what you said. But how was it
How did that land when I said that?
Not well.
In what way?
Not well. I knew things weren't good, but I didn't know how to change it. And when I felt the way I felt as someone who's, legitimately depressed, I was at a loss. I don't know. That's why I would rather not wake up. I knew things were wrong. I knew they're not wrong, but not good. I knew I couldn't fix it. I didn't know how to fix it. I was so low that I didn't care. I just wanted everything to be over. Everything. I just did. That's why it was too difficult for me to figure out how we were going to I had no energy to do anything. Never mind fix something that I truly didn't know how to fix. It was a really interesting time because when I'm in my right mind, I understand there are, what do we say? Reasons or results, right? I know there are things that we can do to make an outcome better. That is logical to me. Behaviors that we have now as husband and wife can create a better relationship in the future. I understand. I had zero logic. I had zero anything.
So you're saying that you didn't have answers?
Zero. I had no answers.
Okay, so here's a question for you.
But I also felt responsible. I knew that it was my fault. I knew that whatever was going on when you say we're not doing this anymore, I knew it wasn't, you didn't play a part in that. I'm sure I blamed you for a lot of things during that time, but I'm sure it wasn't perfect. And I absolutely played a part, right? But here's the thing. It wasn't said as like a threat. It was more of something has to change. I'm done having this conversation, but here's the question. You just described that whole way that you felt. How many times did you ask for help? Zero.
Okay. So this is the issue. You mentioned it, you just said it, something about being responsible. And so this is where I think people get in trouble. This is where I think moms get in trouble. You, in this case, thought you were responsible for the solution.
Yes.
Right? You're not responsible for being the solution. This is how I always looked at it. You're responsible for being a part of the solution. You don't need to find the life raft. You need to find the person to throw it to you. You don't need the specific answer yourself.
Right. You're saying I don't need to build the life raft from scratch when I don't know how to build a life raft. I get that. You're like, yes, I agree. But when I was so low, it was difficult. I did not see hope. That's what it is. There was no hope. I thought there was no way anything was going to change. Zero.
So honestly, it makes me think of you weren't in a headspace to be able to put the pieces together, right?
Zero.
When you say not thinking logically, that's not necessarily just logic. That's being able to make sense of the world, right? You couldn't ask for help in that scenario. It's like when women come into the program very concerned about their weight or their appearance, but they need to settle their internal state before they can build that. And they never do that. They've never done that in the past. Right. And so that's why they've always struggled. You needed to settle your internal state before you could start to make changes.
But answer this though, because this is your episode. Answer this though.
This is my big episode?
Yes, this is one of them.
Okay.
How did you stick through it? When I'm going to bed, I'm as affectionate as a frickin' rock. That's probably too kind of a term for me. Not the rock.
A rock.
I was as affectionate as I had zero affection, which is very important to you. I was very negative. Very negative. I would tell you all the time why we were going to be homeless and our kids were never going to go to college and we weren't going to be able to put food on the table.
That was a good time.
That's how I saw the world.
It's very interesting. I talk to people now, just kind of mentoring people starting businesses that are starting from scratch, and a couple people that haven't been able to see the vision, right? How can they see something or achieve something they've never done before? And those were we would get in yelling arguments about, I would say, well, we can do this. Someone else has done it. And you would say, well, we've never done it. Why, what? And I just, looking back, it's wild now.
Wild. Especially because that's not my natural, that's not my nature. No. My nature is I can figure anything out.
You won a bronze medal, right?
Yeah, but even before then.
You had never done it before.
No, I know. I get this logically, but how did you day by day? I
think it's the same thing. It's the same internal optimism. And it's not positivity, right? Positivity, we've talked about this again. I think positivity can be toxic as all hell, right? Because it creates a disconnect internally. Like cognitively, you know, things aren't great. You can't talk yourself into things being great. But if you have a vision that things can be great, which they can be, right? Because you're talking about something that's possible, what's possible, not what's probable. If you can think in terms of possibility, you can maintain optimism. And that can be your vision. That can power you and give you energy. It's not just positivity. So I always thought that we talk about this, we could be version 2.0 of what we were in the beginning. In the beginning, you're super confident, you're athletic, you're doing all these things. We're traveling the world, having so much fun. Like
Connected. We were super
connected, all that stuff. Sex life, great. All I could think about was like, well, if we've done that, I know we can get that back. I know the person is in there. I never lost sight of that. And maybe I don't specifically remember if I saw glimpses, but I have to guess maybe you had moments when your true self kind of came out. I'm also not a quitter. Like it wasn't like we were trying to build something from scratch. Again, it was, let's be who we are. And I think we've had those moments a few times in our relationship, like don't forget who you are kind of things. And I didn't forget who we were together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was just curious.
Just surprises you?
No, but I really look back and I was only able to see life through my lens. So I had no empathy. I had no sympathy. I had no emotions at all tied into what you must have been going through, because I actually remember this. I remember you told me you felt lonely. I would never know that because I'm alone with my own thoughts all the time, and all I wanted to do was be alone, right? Like that, like to me, it was like, and then I realized that and I'm sure there's plenty of people listening to this that can relate. You're in your own house, but lonely as all hell.
That's the loneliest to me, that's the loneliest I'll ever be. Like were you jealous of me when I said I'm lonely? You're like, you fucker. That's awesome. I think for me personally, the loneliest place I can be is in my house, feeling lonely if you feel lonely around the people that should make you feel seen and heard and all those terms, like that's when it's bad. And I think that's what got me. No, I think it's interesting too. Like when it's not just like, I didn't push back and keep pushing you because it's not just that optimism in the vision. I also believed that like the work works. Like, I think I had gone through some things, and those were times when I had spent, maybe because I wasn't around you, because it was tough, deeper times around my guy friends and kind of digging into this stuff, being open about it on my end. And so I found some things that worked for me. And I think understanding that like, and this is where I think people can go wrong. They put pressure. There's a time pressure, right? Like if I'm not better by next week, or if we're not better tomorrow, they live in the day. And I think a lot of times if you zoom out, you can see like, it's okay. Like I can reboot tomorrow and give it another go, or I can go again next week. It's not, life isn't short, in meaning that you don't need fixes ASAP. You need to work towards fixes, and you need to maintain that path of trying to get better. But if it doesn't work on the first day, it's okay. And so I knew that if we did keep working over time, we could find it. I didn't know what the answer was. That's the other thing. Did
you ever feel trapped? Did you ever feel like I want out?
No, never.
No. I like never, even on my worst. I was pretty bad. I was a nightmare at times. I understand that. At the time, I didn't care. I knew I was, but I didn't care. Not because I wanted to be mean, but I literally had no emotion.
No. I think I probably just I just withdrew into other things within my life, like training, right? Or my friends or the kids. I never wanted to run away. There's just times when you need a timeout. You know what I mean? That's what I felt like. Yep. Like, all right, timeout. I need to go train, or I need to go take the kids out by myself, or something like that.
Yeah, we had plenty of moments actually where we would take the kids out together, and I just wouldn't even engage with the family.
No, it was like, this is the best. I have a picture. We went to the zoo, which we love. Big animal people, love the kids at the zoo. And there's like pictures, me walking around the zoo, big zoo with the 3 kids. And then Lauren's like 10 feet behind the kids, like walking. It's like she's Eeyore, essentially, like just dragging ass, following us around. I remember that day. That was like, that's burnt into my brain. I think you said like 5 words in 5 hours. And it was just like, wow, this is really hard. And that's what was hard. Like you would wake up and just know. I remember I'd be like, so how are you feeling? And you would, whatever you would say, it was like you knew that that day was just going to be a zero energy, zero output.
Yeah, I can tell. I can still tell.
Yeah, it sucks. That's a little scary to me, to be honest. Not scary like in the bigger sense, but like it's triggering. That's probably a better way to put it.
That was a source of fights between us, was you'd say, how you feeling? And I'd say, not good. And then you'd be like, the day hasn't even started. How do you know that it's not going to be good? And I can tell you, like, from just like an energy, it's hard for me to think. My brain doesn't process things. I tell people, you know, if you've never been in depression, it's really hard to describe. But if you gave me a spreadsheet, I would have a really hard time just like reading it and understanding what I'm supposed to do. Like my brain wasn't working. So, and I know we've had these conversations. I don't want it to be that way.
No, do you see it from my angle though? Like
100%.
Waking up with someone that's, and there's a full day of taking care of young kids and cooking and cleaning and going to take care of all the things. And like, as soon as I wake up, it's like a coin flip whether I'm on my own that day. Like that's hard. Right. And I know it was hard for you, but
yeah,
that was kind of what I was dealing with at the time, which was challenging, as they say, in the kindest possible terms. It was challenging.
All right. Well, let me ask you a couple questions that have come up. And I know I love talking about marriage. I love talking about our journey, because a lot of times, again, when you look at things from the outside, you automatically assume like, oh, look at them. They have everything together. Just like when you look at moms who have all their shit together and you're like, oh man. And then you realize, you know, everyone's just a hot mess, but everyone has a journey. Everyone has a story. I've said this a billion times. I don't think we would be as close as we are now if we didn't have the struggles that we did. I do feel like there's an opportunity to get stronger through struggles, or that's maybe where people say, this is too much of a struggle. I don't want to do that. And it's time to, you know, end the marriage or whatever endeavor it is. But I have a couple of questions that have come up that I thought were really good questions. And I really am curious of this answer. So, well, one of them is, why was it important to work through struggles together? Do you felt like we worked through our struggles together? So let's just, sorry, I'll wind it back. I'm getting ahead of myself.
What if I say no?
That's fine. This is your day.
I know I want attention right now. That's why I tossed that out.
No, so what ended up happening was you called, you know, the therapist, you called the phlebotomist. I got my blood work done. Went to therapy, started getting to work. I was more open to your help, which I was never open to your help previously, right? We've talked about that before, when you always just wanted to fix, you know, I appreciate it because you always wanted to fix what was wrong.
I think, yeah, one thing, going back, that this might be for, I don't know how many non-moms will be listening at some point. There'll be a lot, but I think the big thing with that call to the therapist was, as a guy, right? Guys are fixers. Women need listeners, essentially. Is that fair?
Well, I need a listener, and you're definitely a fixer. So fair. It's true in our
I know,
marriage.
but I know we're not the only ones,
yeah.
Right? And so I think the biggest thing for me, especially, I mean, when we met, certainly there was an ego at play for me. Being able to help. It didn't come from a bad place always. I'm sure, well, there's probably part of me that wanted to be able to say that I helped fix it. But the majority of it was like, I just wanted to help you. Like, it's hard to watch every day, like, you continuously feel terrible. And so I wanted to fix and help. That was really it. But it took, I mean, you can say it took 6 years, but I finally realized, like, I don't have the answers, and it's okay. Like, that was maybe the biggest thing for me, was like, okay, if we're going to have what we want, and like, if I'm going to be the one that says we can't do this anymore, well, I had to be part of the solution, which was to say, you know what, I'm not the answer. Which I think is hard for a lot of guys, especially taking pride in their relationship or the way that kind of society looks at it. Like, I just gave up in terms of trying to do it myself. And so that's when bringing in outside help, therapists and doctor for blood work and things like that, it changed.
Yeah. And it also is helpful for me too, I think, because
Aha.
well, it's true.
For sure. I'm support all of a sudden instead of like,
Yes.
there's no push pull.
No.
All of a sudden, instead of me facing you, I turned and walked next to you in the same direction.
Yes. And so you saying you could fix it, or, what, you would always say, well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do this? And why don't you do this? And I had a lot of resistance to that, but it was a lot easier for me to accept help from outside sources, which I think is very common. It's funny. Even the moms we work with right now are like, it's funny. The things that we're talking about or the workouts that we're doing, my husband's been trying to get me to do for years. And I get it. Sometimes you just need someone else to say, hey, this is important. Let's go ahead and do this. It's a different perspective. It's a different relationship. It's a different dynamic. But a lot of my resistance came from, I truly knew that I truly believed you had no idea what I was going through. So the things you suggested, I'm like you have no idea.
How many times did you come home from the therapist and say, well, I told her that you said that too?
Oh yeah, a million. Not even.
That's
not even a question.
That's all I need. That's
okay.
On public record now.
All right. So it was important for us to, as I started to get better mentally myself, we started to legitimately work on our marriage. I would say, I think we've done a lot of things.
Yeah. Your mind was right. I think it just takes a little positive feedback, right? Like, we got a little bit closer, then we're like, oh, this feels good. Let's do more to work on this. And then it just kind of fed itself. Yeah. It was always a priority for us. It wasn't like, it wasn't like all of a sudden it was terrible. And then we're like, oh, we need, red alert. We need to work on this. From the very beginning, when we met each other, I think we were always like very into that aspect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the question would be, we worked on it together, but we also worked on ourselves separately. So
why do you say that with a pained look on your face?
Well, because honestly, it's this one question. And as I'm trying to work through the question, I'm trying to make it make more sense for what we're talking about. Because it says, why was it important to work on your struggles together? But at the end of the day, I don't think you worked on my struggles. I think you worked on yourself.
You got to get your own shit together.
I worked on myself, but we worked on our marriage together, and we supported each other. I know I've said this a million times, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but the one thing I think we've done very well is support each other. Even at my lows, when I'm not feeling great, I was like, you're not feeling, I know you don't love your job, let's move. Like, do big life decisions. I think we've always wanted to support each other. But when I see this question and it says, why is it important for you to work through your struggles together? I think, to be dead honest, we worked on ourselves a shit ton. And then we brought, I remember when I started reading and listening to and doing all the things and working out, I would share, this is what I did, this is how good I feel. And then you would tell me what you were doing. And then we would connect those and then move together with our coupledom, or whatever you would call it.
No, I think that's dead on. People need to work on themselves. The marriage is only as strong as the weakest link, essentially. So you can put all the work in yourselves, but you're individually going to hold each other back, in my opinion. And
it's even now. I mean, even today, even last week, when I don't feel great about myself for whatever reason, maybe I take a week off of working out, whatever reason, it always, always shows up with me not being as affectionate, me being preoccupied, saying I'm too busy. And it's true. Me not being super confident with myself and being all self-conscious, it really has to do with that. And then it affects our relationship. You just call me on it now and I can totally take it much better than in the past.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. This is probably for everybody, is to have, to me, it's important to have space and understanding to be able to call you on it, right? It's one thing if you're not accepting of it, but we need to have that communication, I think, which is everything.
Yep. So what did the experience of us navigating life, right? 3 kids, a new business, I'm in massive depression. What did that teach you about our relationship or relationships in general?
Wow. That's an interesting question. I think,
how about our relationship? That's really what we can relate it to.
It told me, I think it told me that there was more in play than I thought, in terms of when we first pre-kids get together, even at the very beginning, you kind of get used to stability, you get used to ease and the way it is, and you just assume that it's always going to be like that. And I think if you're not careful and paying attention, things can veer off course. It's the 1 degree, again, at a time. It's like if you're, Laura and I are taking a road trip from LA to New York and we take a wrong turn in California, we can end up in Florida for not paying attention. And I think that was a huge, huge thing I learned, that we need to check in and be aware and do a little bit of reflection pretty often to stay on top of things. I think another huge thing that I learned was that we can have whatever we want, right? It's just belief and work. And above all, I think the most important thing is honesty over comfort. It took a long time for us to get dead honest, probably. Maybe it's the conversations about can't do this anymore. It could be a lot of things, but until you get to the truth of where you're at, and this goes with anything, you're going to stay stuck. You can't address the real issues if you don't uncover the real issues. And a lot of times the real issues feel terrible. They hurt to tell. They're embarrassing. There's shame around them. And
you hurt each other's feelings.
You hurt each other's feelings. All of that has to come out. I think that's where the best stuff comes from, right? I think that's where you get closer. And once you do it once, it's a little easier the next time. You do it again, it's even easier. And so if you can establish that pattern and understand that, then all of a sudden now, something comes up and it's like, well, let's go for a walk. And when we go for a walk, we're going to be yelling at each other. And that's okay, because we know that it's just going to get hashed out. Let's just get it over with, be done and move on, right? And get better. And so I think it's taken, what did you say? 17 years we've been married. It's a little bit better every day. Like that's what we're working towards in terms of communication and easy. There's still going to be bumps, right? But if it's like, you've tested yourself, you've built confidence from, results. And I think that matters.
So I love that honesty over comfort. I think sometimes we try and stay too comfortable, which being too comfortable, all of a sudden 10 years down the road, that too comfortable place is not a good place to be. The other thing that we've talked about a lot is timing over topic. You could have any difficult conversation. We can have any difficult conversation if it's the right time. That's definitely when I talk about tools in our toolbox of things that I can go to when it comes to communication. Communication's everything. There was a time that I had no awareness of you had your own thoughts and perception of what life was going on. I always thought that what I saw is what everybody else saw, right? Is what you saw. Like when I didn't want to be around people, I assumed you didn't want to be around people. Never occurred to me that you had a different feeling and emotions. And so that was really important. But we have definitely had some very not good, we've had very poor conversations because the timing was just terrible. It wasn't that we shouldn't have talked about it. It was something that needed to be talked about. But yeah, timing over topic 100%.
Typically, if you're having the conversation about something, even with a little bit of stress, after like 8 o'clock at night, doesn't work very well. Everyone's tired. Things go off track, and we still get into trouble with that one. So I love timing over topic is massive.
One more question and then we'll wrap it up. Where are you proud of that you stayed the course, right? It would have been really easy to take a wrong turn, right? Where do people go wrong? This is what someone asked. Where do people go wrong when faced with a tough challenge? Because it's always difficult when people ask us about our journey, because I can sit here and say 100% confident that we knew we were the right people for each other. And, we knew that, and you, especially since you were in your right mind the whole time, you knew that we could always have something special, but where could people go wrong?
It's different for everybody. That's the hard part.
Maybe the lack of vision.
Yeah, it's not just vision. It's got to be shared vision, right? I think that was a big one. If you have a vision and your spouse or partner has a different vision and there's no communication around kind of melding those two together, I think that's a big potential landmine, right? And again, everyone's different. They're in that at the same time. There are situations that people should walk away from, right? We're not here to say that everyone should stick it out. You know your situation deeper than anybody, but I guess it comes back to just sitting and thinking like, okay, where have I been with this person? What have I felt like in the past? If you felt like it in the past, you can get back to that point at the bare minimum, in my opinion, right? If you want to take it further, which I hope for everybody that they want to take it further, right? Because there's always room to grow and be closer, and have tougher, more enjoyable conversations. The one thing I want to talk about real quick is we hear this a lot. What if, what people, they can't even envision what they want? What if they think it's too far out of reach? Because you mentioned earlier, you think that you have this life now that you didn't think was possible. Mm-hmm. So what do you tell people who like, they're all they can see is, maybe they're just seeing, just getting along better, just having a communication, conversation.
Well, you actually taught me this because I used to aim very low when it came to goals because I didn't want to get my hopes up and then be disappointed. I think my defense mechanism would be I don't like feeling disappointed. I would rather undershoot, not me and my normal self, but when I don't have any confidence, I don't want to shoot for a goal and undershoot. Shoot for a goal that's pretty lofty. I feel like a failure if I don't reach it.
This is relationship. This could be for anybody. This could be a physical goal, a work goal, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's super common. We hear that a lot from the women in the program.
Yep. And I finally have understood that we have more control. Like I said, you and I choose to create actions that make a better marriage. We just went on a lunch date because we couldn't get a dinner date on the books because of, the busyness of life at that particular week. We try and do our date nights. We just talked about going away a couple nights with us. We do our vision boards together. We try and stay connected, and we actually create actions that build a life that we want. And it finally sunk in that if someone's done it, it's doable, it's realistic. And the bigger I dream doesn't mean it's going to end up that exact dream, but I think the more doors open. So I know for our relationship personally, when I think of it as the best it can be versus I just want to get back to a space where we actually want to be in the same room together. But then more doors open because we wouldn't think let's go on our week, 5-day connection. That's what we do. We go on like 5 days, usually sometime around our anniversary. We might not think to do that because if we're just happy being in the same room together, why reach for anything else? So I think more doors open with the bigger the vision is. And because I've been feeling amazing and I've also been feeling at the bottom of the barrel, there is no reason why amazing plus shouldn't be at least strived for. Because if you don't hit it, you're still going to be a hell of a lot further than you would if you would have aimed just to be average.
I like it. I think along those same lines, like once people we do health maps, right, in the program, and that's a tool to help people kind of break through. Once you outline what you would want, let's say it's a 6-month or a 12-month goal, let's say for your relationship, you need to keep rebooting that vision. Don't just sit on the same vision and goals with your thing, right? When you get to 9 months or 12 months or even 6 months, reevaluate, reshoot, because the odds are if you put the work in and you are growing and you're connecting at a greater level, a deeper level, all of a sudden you're going to have more inside of you to draw up an even grander vision, right? And so you need to continually do those exercises. It's not a one-off. You don't just say when you're a kid, I want to play in college, right? Well, all of a sudden when you get to realize maybe that you're going to play in college, you need to shoot again. You need to say, hey, I want to play professionally or I want to go to the Olympics, whatever the thing is, keep going with it. Don't just stop.
Yeah, I can think of specific examples, which we're going to wrap up here, so I won't share. But I remember looking at each other going, hey, remember when we only wanted, and it was something seemingly huge at the time, right?
Impossible at the time.
Yeah, impossible at the time for us to go on our 5-day getaway. Just me and you at the time seemed impossible. We had our little kids and we opened a new business and we had no money and it was like that was the holy grail. And now that's just become our norm. We go every year. And now it's like, okay, what's the next thing? So we're just layering and layering and layering. But that's the best part is we can be super happy with what we have in our relationship, but still shoot for more. which I think is fantastic. Any other parts?
You've said it all.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for hanging with us.
I'll be off the hot seat next time. Would you like to thank anybody?
Yeah. I'd like to thank everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along this journey with us. If you like this, please like, subscribe, share. If you're a mom, please join us. We have a free Facebook group, and in this Facebook group, we share the tactics that we actually use working with our clients, and it's a fantastic place to get started.
Yeah, the main piece there, it's an environment to be around people thinking like this, and to have our coaches are all in there, Lauren's in there, just to kind of drive conversation and push people to think a little bit deeper. And I know we always have a few moms that are ready to talk and take the next step. There's a link in the show notes to hop on the phone.
Yeah.
It's quick and easy. Learn a little bit about what we do.
Dig it. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.